Ms. Shruti Gupta, Young Engineers ASHRAE YEA, Chair 2022-23, ASHRAE India Chapter. She is attached with technical societies such as Secretary ASHRAE Gurugram and Secretary Assocham Haryana. Coming from an architect background, Shruti has done Masters in Sustainable Architecture and PG in Urban Planning and Development. She worked for various government schemes and policies like Smart Cities Mission, ECBC Commercial and Residential, Amrut, Econivas, Shamita, etc. Ms. Shruti is recipient of Griha Exemplary Performance Award, UNDP Headquarters, Young Sustainable Crusader Award, and Technology Augmentation Specialist Award, Sustainable Mobility Conference during the year 2022. She is IGBC accredited, GRIA, and GIM certified professional. Today, Ms. Shruti will talk about enhancing energy efficiency for built environment. So, delegate, let's welcome Ms. Shruti.
Gentlemen, today I would like to begin by introducing what are the key aspects of India Cooling Action Plan. And then further we'll talk about within the built environment, what are the provisions. I'll speak with you on a very minute spectrum about how building physics operates and how we can integrate design elements in order to mitigate these risks, be it for plotted residential housings, complexes, be it for our own high-rise structures, which is the modern trend of developing economies like India. So on this note, I would like to bring to your kind notice that this ICAP was launched in March of 2019 by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and it provides a 20-year vision. This perspective talks about whatever they have outlined with respect to actions that are needed to provide sustainable cooling. Now, sustainable cooling is not just limited to having integrated energy efficient equipments within the HVAC systems, to having multiple range of systems when it comes to HVAC integration for a building. Talks about general building science, wherein integration of basic physics is in the format of providing with passive design structures, passive features in order to mitigate the dependency on the active design features. I understand that today the modern trend has, we have left very far the practices of adopting vernacular trends in architecture, which were actually a part of each and every region geographically and native to a culture like India. But I think it is the moment while it is getting adopted, because I'm working in close association for various heritage conservation projects in this respect. I'm associated with the Jaipur Smart City project, and we are taking care of the within the walled city, whatever is the guideline as per heritage conservation rules and regulations, going ahead with small features, jharokhes, and whatever the integration of basic architecture according to the vernacular practices was, and we are able to attain a better thermal comfort index for the individuals, and also we are able to obtain a better built environment. Also, the occupants relatively feel more related when they are seated in a compartmentalized space which has been designed with all these passive design features, with aspects of ventilation which date back to ages ago, not just the modern day UPVC windows, which is double door. I understand that these features are unique and modern to the aesthetic aspect, but what climate of India is, we ought to practice our built environment with respect to that. On line of this, I would like to bring to your notice that India geographically has been divided into 5 climatic zones. That is as per the National Building Code. And these climatic zones have been formulated on the basis of the microclimate within each region, such as the diversity of a nation like India. And in lieu of the same, we have formulated a vision under ICAP where we talk about the cooling demands, the refrigerant demands, and the cooling energy requirements. Because altogether, we have a 20-year vision of reducing all these demands, which will further enhance the quality of life and also the experience of occupants within the building. So I would like to put emphasis on the fact that an occupant is not just seated within one compartmentalized space when we talk about building, but it is visual, thermal, acoustic, many other kind of comforts that we as human beings look forward to when we talk about a spatial unit in which we try to compose, be it our bedroom, be it our working space. So it becomes very important to be able to concentrate, and to be able to concentrate, we ought to have all the features within integrated portions, be it the humidity levels within that compartmentalized area where we are seated. And in lieu of the same, we have to work on each and every macro aspect from building level to site level and then to city level. So we can talk about an integrated plan of development for the entire country. Of course, this cooling action plan would encourage integration of a lot of skilled workers, because it has put emphasis on how we will channelize integrating HVAC technologies into the manufacturing sector for various industries. Now, the government, as Darshana introduced to us, that for residential sector, we have the ECBC in the format of Eco-Niwas Sahita, Part 1, Part 2. For commercial, we had ECBC released in 2007. And after the Energy Conservation Act 2001 was revised, we had ECBC released again in 2017. Now, the latest provisions of the EC Act and the renewal of the Act talk about the mitigation of carbon footprint within certain sectors, which would help us establish a footprint for broader targets, and in order to provide the predictable planning horizon for businesses that are covered under the purview of EC Act primarily. Intensity-based trading systems for carbon emissions have also been discussed in the augmented amendments and clauses of the Act. This would help reduce on the carbon emissions by cap and trade method for manufacturing sectors and various other sectors, and also help in curbing the air pollution and other pollution levels and reduce the deterioration of environment in many formats. Parallel to this, many ministries on an interministerial and interstate level have been making a dialogue since 2014-2015. They've come up with several plans in order to maintain the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, which was in the form of counting the continuous emission monitoring systems for manufacturing segment. They have been trying to implement these at various levels, be it the integration of energy conservation building code in each and every state of India through their bylaws, which is a huge process because that is channelized through the urban development agencies. So there are multiple levels of plays that we have to do in order to integrate these rules and regulations, these clauses in the existing mechanism of development. Over the past years, while practicing, I have seen that there is so much clarity that government had, and there are so many measures that they have adopted. And in line of the same, within the renewable energy division for each state, they have a separate renewable energy in the ECBC cell, which talks about firstly capacity building in lieu of integrating the people who are involved with the building segment, the infrastructure segment, integrating them with the knowledge base of what ECBC as a code is about, what value addition it will bring to the building. Secondly, they have been working in close association with the government buildings in that particular states, trying to establish and mitigate their energy consumptions. So which itself develops the state of art and prototype for other private builders for adoption. Also, slowly and steadily, they have been penetrating into the bylaws of the state and trying to amend certain policies in order to benefit the energy consumption patterns. And we have today reached with 10 states who have already absorbed ECBC in their bylaws. We have 10 states which are on the line of absorbing in their bylaws. And towards the northeast of India, where development is still prevailing, we are fortunate enough that there are at least regular capacity building, knowledge dissemination sessions going on. And sooner or later, we'll be amongst the horizon which we had planned in respect of this. I would like to share a couple of pictures with you so that we have more clarity on what I am talking about. This is what a typical facade of a high-rise building in developing economies of the world today looks like, with air conditioning units protruding out of your windows, or if at all it's an air conditioning unit within your built walls, then you have your air handling units by and side of the balconies. You know, the view, it's not just about the view getting hindered, it's about how many equipments you are putting up within those small enclosed spaces and the amount of HCFCs that are getting released into the environment. That is why we are unable to meet the National Ambient Air Quality Standards in the very first place. Even for buildings that are, I would say, built by one of the prime developers in, tier 1 cities. I've experienced facades like these. And what is this? This is basically a lack of having know-how of basic calculation what their HVAC demand would be. And then later on, so many systems and equipments are installed, and it basically puts havoc. And these so many equipments within a building, within a structure, are energy guzzlers. So we do not, as it is, we are not very well equipped till date with the integration of renewable energy into the basic services system for buildings. Then how can we levy such heavy load on the conventional methods of generating energy by having these equipments in place? Now I'll show you a rather pleasing picture. And I think with the dynamics of it, you all can relate what I'm talking about. This is a regular structure. All of you must have experienced it early in your life. And if you're fortunate enough, you still might have one or two odd of the paternal or maternal homes where you have such structure, where you feel such comfort. Now, talking about the science behind it, I would like to bring to your notice that the climatology of India, primarily, let's just talk about composite climatic condition. Composite is where Delhi lies, where Haryana is. So just helping you, because I think most of the practitioners who are today listening to me are from the infrastructure segment, and they will definitely, if not till date, they will get a chance to participate in the dynamics of design integration, and they can incorporate such small features. No matter what the size of built structure is, they can incorporate these small features and then enhance the quality of building for their occupants. When we talk about site planning, we make sure that along the east and west axis, we make the inclusion of wind for movement. This way, we are channelizing natural wind direction into the built environment and cutting the mechanical ventilation requirement. Similarly, in this building, we can see that there are insulated windows with minimized heat loss. And what happens is that across the portion where we have provided the ventilation, if you can follow my cursor, we have a shading design, or a protruding, it can be anything. In different parts of India, it is in different formats. For example, in Ahmedabad, in Jaipur, where we have hot and warm summers, we have entire window which is encased backwards. An eggshell structure is more prevalent in Ahmedabad, but not more prevalent in maybe northeast of India. So each and every part of India has traditionally formulated this, but we have, forgotten these age-old practices, and we have stepped into the modern concrete and glass structures, which has then increased the demand of HVAC, and which has then again caused multiple issues psychologically and talking about the thermal comfort of occupants. So in this particular built up, what we are doing is we have provided a window towards the north direction, which is again insulated with minimizing heat loss, and it has movable adjustable shades over it in order to cut down the sun during harsh temperatures. What this particular window is doing when I'm aligning my site along east y-axis is it is increasing the penetration of north light. So solar insolation is something which, when penetrates, not only provides me with natural daylight, but if the internal walls have high thermal mass, then they will absorb that heat in the afternoon, and in the night they will release that heat. Therefore, my emphasis on heating the building or heating the structure will be minimized. I'll have minimum requirement for a supplementary heating gadget or a device or my oil fin, any kind of heating that we've been practicing, especially in north of India. Now I see that every household has at least 2 to 3 bedrooms, and every bedroom they have kept a different kind of blower or a heater during these winters. So what is all of this? If we get to the crux of it, it is basically climate change penetrating in our built environment in different formats. Yes, we are having a proper system by ministries, by government to curb it on manufacturing level, on sector wise, through various measures. But individually, if we understand the building in science or the building engineering aspect behind putting a window in certain direction, having certain aspects of, curating your own buildings, it will not harm us. It will in long run help us to mitigate these effects. Let's get back to basics. India has sun rising from the east and setting towards the west, right? And the movement of sun for any piece of land where you are standing is primarily through south because of the positioning of India on the global map. Okay, now what we do is we cut down whatever the sun rays is penetrating through west. So either we provide some buffing, if at all, we do not have the leverage to cut down on the glazing that has been provided traditionally in west, because if we are going for high rise and we have limitations with respect to bylaws, then what we can do is provide buffing, provide a staircase in that area. These are the aspects that we have discussed in not just the building science books which date back to the 80s and 70s, but these are the aspects we have been practicing since centuries. They have been discussed traditionally in the Vastu of India, and that is what has taken a leap into the modern designing trends. And we have some great architects practicing vernacular architecture and getting into nitty-gritties of designing the building, like Mr. Ashok B. Lal, who has done really well in establishing commercial buildings with these aspects and these passive design features. And also we have parallel examples where we are generating rated buildings, we are generating a conscious built environment in the form of having a glazing which is of a certain solar heat gain capacity, which has a certain U factor, and it's either double glazed, triple glazed for the benefit of it. But if we incorporate these measures into each and every aspect of designing, I think we'll be in a better position to have that leverage of not just including what was being practiced in the past, but also having a broader opinion of taking forward what our traditional ways were to live about. There are very small, simple steps that we can follow. Like, for example, if you have a balcony which is very well kept with greens, with plants, this is very basic thing I'm talking about. Early morning, you'll certainly feel like getting in that balcony and, maybe if not just looking at the sun and making sure that, you experience that. And it's not because there are beautiful flowers growing, or it's because within that enclosed space, you have a higher evapotranspiration rate because of the plants that are present. Green is the most pleasing color to human eye. This is the basic science which is involved behind having all these semi and fully landscape areas in and around your built environment in moderation with the built up, which we have left behind somewhere. We are trying to incorporate the modern design mechanisms, but are they viable enough for the human being's comfort? Because here we are talking about every format of comfort. For developing economies like India, it has happened that there is rapid urbanization, and the building sector in India primarily is experiencing an unprecedented growth, I would say. But in order to be able to meet this, we have to nationally contribute and determine that where we draw a fine line and be able to incorporate these changes within our built environment. On the similar note, I'm trying to quote another example where I'm depicting a good ventilation where the windows are positioned, if you can follow the blue arrow, for prevailing breeze. Now, the warm air rises up. This is basic science that we have studied in 6th and 7th standard. And it releases through these vents, through these windows. And there is a permeable channel between two compartmentalized zones within a built up space, where the internal walls again have high thermal mass. They absorb heat during the day, they release it during the night. And because I have not provided with any form of skylight or in this particular roof profile, so the insulation is given to this high thermal mass roof, but there's no penetration of solar insulation within the building. Also, I'm trying to take leverage of the ventilation that I have designed, and also the plants along the gallery area or along the patio help me reduce the radiated heat because of a high evapotranspiration rate. The shaded windows make sure that there is low heat gain in all these aspects. Again, I'm depicting yet another example for contours or development on a profile which is not planes. So there are windows which are shaded from the sun in winter, and in some there is heat loss through the roof due to inadequate insulation. I'm trying to parallelly depict a good example and a bad so that you understand that these basic points can also make a huge difference in what your set point temperatures of air conditioning devices will be within your bedrooms, because of certain points that ventilation is not provided. So you will have this need of having another mechanical device in order to make you feel comfortable. Whereas all you can do is get up and open your window, have few plants around, and create your own solution through basic building science and building physics, that what is wrong with my space and how I can augment in a particular direction for my comfort. Now, this is another example where there's inadequate ventilation, and because of that, there is no breezeway because there's partition and air goes in. There's no way of this air to channelize outside. So the hot air rises up, and that is where the window has been provided, and air doesn't have really an escape. Similarly, we do have a skylight or a setup, but we do not have it in a shaded format. So what happens is there is penetration of solar insulation through this, because that has not been technically designed in a format in which it should have been. Also, having pavers which are not accordingly reflective, are not having a high solar reflective index, and these pavers, what they will do is will again direct the solar heat waves and rays inside built up through this window, and also there will be heat gain through a window which is not shaded enough. So these are small examples that I'm quoting, but on a larger spectrum now I'll talk about that. Today we have 20 carbon markets that are active worldwide, and they are operating in economies of the world that provide close to 40% of the global GDP. Now, future is very heavy in terms of size for economies that are till date second and part of the second and third world economies, because first world economies have developed. They have the equipment and everything in place. But now we have our built up also coming, and we have integration of technology also in the built up also going on simultaneously, which is dangerous for the environment. And in order to provide predictable plan for the horizon of the businesses that are covered under this spectrum, we have put caps on emissions, and these caps are becoming tighter, and we are maintaining the competitiveness and ensuring that there is market stability, and it continues to the core of whatever it is policies we are forming. But these aspects can be catered through small steps within the building sector, small steps within the infrastructure sector, making sure that although there is rapid urbanization, but it is very conscious decision of the environment, for the environment, which is taken by individuals and the government with respect to all the bylaws and policies that are in place to make the maximum out of whatever resources we have. So conservation, not just for resources, but a great energy efficient water management, waste management, and site planning aspect. Thank you.